Welcome, everyone, to a brand new installment of What Show, Jeff?
GOREFEST at Tiffany's. Well, we're going to celebrate our one of our favorite genre scream queen type actresses, Tiffany Shepis. She's got an illustrious career, prolific, if nothing else, dozens of films probably, ranging all the way from the very, very late 90s all the way to today. Very active actress, been in tons of stuff, a wide variety of things. And for whatever reason, I latched onto her. Matt latched onto her. We like this actress. We like her work, and we want to celebrate it.
Yeah, for sure. So we welcome everybody who might be joining the channel for the very first time here on Outpost Unknown. I know we do have a number of individuals who said they're going to sort of promote the show and put out there. So, Jeff, what is Outpost Unknown all about before we dive into the oeuvre of Ms. Shepis?
Well, there's a half dozen or so of us, and we're all friends first, and then content creators second. And we're interested in different things, but there's some through lines: movies, genre stuff, horror movies, sci-fi stuff, Star Wars, whatever it is. There's some through lines, but we all have our own our own interests that we want to explore. But we came together and we're like, well, maybe if you do a little bit and I do a little bit, between the lot of us, we'll have a channel's worth of content. So, you do tremendous stuff with your Forgotten Horrors and your Star Wars shows, and Steve does the Steve Cast, which is a cool format. So there's a bunch of different things going on the channel, coming from sort of different points of view and different areas of interest, but with those through lines of friendship and some broad commonality in the genre and the film and the entertainment stuff. So eclectic mix, but with some coherence.
Yeah. And I think, we just sort of started this channel because we were like, hey, well, let's just do whatever we want.
Mhm.
There's no
Yeah.
restrictions on any of us. So that's what our channel's all about. Be sure to check out the rest of the things. If you're interested, just browse around and maybe you'll find a show that you're interested in, or just come back for the next episode of GoreFest at Tiffany's.
Mhm.
So we're going to talk about GoreFest at Tiffany's, but before we do, it hit me today, Jeff. What have we gotten ourselves into here? This seems like I was like, well, I'll talk a little bit later about how the sort of idea of this came
Uh-huh.
about. Really, sort of hit me today as I was waiting for this coming distractions Troma DVD to arrive for the past 2 weeks at my home. That we might have bitten off a little more than we can chew.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I feel I've had the same thought when you pull up the IMDb, you pull up the filmography on a wiki or something, and you're like, okay, wait, what? Am I really good? And I think the thing that we're not going to let ourselves off the hook super easy, because we've already found, even when looking at the early, I think the idea is maybe you'll get into the details, but maybe just go down the list. But you start finding things and you're like, okay, I can find this one. This one's on Tubi. I have a DVD of that one, etc. But you start hitting these ones where is this? Where can I get a hold of this? And we're not going to let ourselves off the hook without trying, right? We're going to try to find the thing. So that becomes an area of frustration, because we're talking several dozen films, shows, etc.
IMDb said currently on IMDb says she has
Yeah.
156 acting credits. And she's
Yeah.
a working actress.
Yeah.
So she's just going to there's going to be more and more and more. This show may never end.
Right. So, I mean, even if I was sitting here telling myself, okay, I'll watch, 2 or 3 a week, which is a lot for, we're busy people with lives and whatnot, man, it's a lot, but we're going to try.
For sure. And, I'm excited to do this personally because, to celebrate sort of the filmography of one of our favorite genre actresses. I don't know if she's your favorite scream queen of our era. There's three that come to mind for me. Tiffany Shepis is one, Debbie Rochon is another, and then Danielle Harris. Those were like the three kind of iconic scream queens of our age range. Is that what you'd agree with?
Yes.
Or is there anyone else?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you've hit on it. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you've really hit on it for one of the reasons why I've latched onto her. It's because she's roughly the same age as me. And it's not exactly a representation thing, right? Because I don't feel necessarily represented by Ms. Shepis, but it's like I identify as a Gen Xer, and when I think of myself as a kid watching all the horror movies that I wasn't supposed to get a hold of yet, and who were the scream queens in those? They were people. They're great, but they're older than me, right? And so just to have someone that I kind of identify with as just being of my same generation, who is also involved in all this genre stuff that I was super interested, at least at one time in my life. that kind of just, I don't know, it's a tie-in to me that makes it compelling.
Yeah, I think so, and I think, and I'll talk about this a little bit later when we talk why Tiffany Shepis. Like, why did we
Hmm.
choose her
Yeah.
instead of someone like Danielle Harris
Yep.
or anybody else? But I strongly agree with you in a sense of like it just felt like wow, this is someone our age group doing cool
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
Like this would be fun. She seems like an awesome person. Like I would want to be friends with her, sort of thing. And you just kind of like follow those people along in their career. But yeah, like Jeff said, everybody, we are here to celebrate Tiffany Shepis. We're gonna watch. If we're gonna try, our goal is to watch literally everything she has ever been in, and I'll get into more of that of like how this took so long to actually record this episode because we're running up against our Halloween deadline to have this out. But that's our thing. We're going to use IMDb as our primary source. However, this first episode is all about Troma. So, welcome, citizens of Tromaville. The IMDb is already wrong for her Troma stuff. It lists things that she's actually not in. It's wild. So, we're going to try our best to go all the way through. But we're going to need help. And this is where I employ our viewers out there. I'm sure there's plenty of Tiffany Shepis fans that are going to tune into this. Filmmakers, fellow actors, just fans in general. Please, if you have access to any of these films or you know where we can find them, send us an email at outpostunknown@gmail.com, and we will absolutely, try to watch these things, and we want to be a completionist here. We want to see everything. So that, like I said, what the show kind of is, we're going to go in chronological order ish. Sometimes there might be a little difficulty obtaining some films. We don't want to like hold off on a show for 6 months while we're waiting for something to come in. So we're going to do our best to sort of group them show by show, maybe 5 films here and there per show, just in her chronological order. Grouping by eras, similar eras. So, for example, this covers 1996 through 2004. Even though she had a bunch of other films sprinkled in there that weren't Troma, we've just figured, hey, the Troma episode, let's watch everything Troma and do it all in one episode. So, we'll be grouping by themes and eras and whatnot. We will have a running checklist, which you'll be able to see when I'm putting all these fancy graphics in. And then we're going to try to keep this, we don't want to just talk about this stuff. And we're going to try to pull clips from these movies and scenes and grab photos that we can find and things of that nature and make it look as professional a production as we possibly can. Because one thing that I told this to Jeff right away is like, I don't want this just be us chatting. Oh man, that was an awesome movie. She
Right.
was good
Right.
in that.
Right.
It's
Right.
like, I want to put some production value into this and, do some actual work, and whatnot. Blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
She went through blood, sweat, and tears for our enjoyment, getting doused in blood and screaming around and getting hacked up. The least we can do is put some clips in there here and there
Yeah.
of stuff that we like. And then I'm going to try to do a running kill counter. So every time we
That'll be
encounter
cool.
her getting slaughtered, we'll have a video of that. Strangely enough, a spoiler, she doesn't die in any Troma stuff.
No.
Nothing. I couldn't believe it. I was like, for sure she would die in Terror Firmer or something, but no kills yet, as of the first episode for Mrs. Shepis. And then this will not be an every week thing, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to be notified that this is going to happen, you're going to have to like hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. We don't know exactly how long it's going to take us to put all of these together, but we'll try to get one out once a month if possible, if time sort of allows us to. So what the show is not, I do think it's important to let people know, like, what are we not doing here? We are not going to be reviewing every single film in minute detail. That's not what the show is about. The show is about Tiffany Shepis. We're going to be talking about her roles in the films, and we're certainly going to sort of mention and spotlight, wow, she was really good in this, or this film is definitely something that we think that you guys should go check out, regardless of whether or not you like Tiffany Shepis or not. Just it's a cool film. We'll definitely be doing that stuff, but we're not going to go into the minutia, plot by plot, of all of these different films because we would never finish this
No.
show if we were to do something like that. So we're not going to be doing plots, and we have no interest. At least I am. In full disclosure, I'm a filmmaker, like micro budget filmmaker. I direct stuff, write stuff. Jeff has acted in micro budget movies. We have no interest in trashing on filmmakers' stuff. So, when you're in 156 different micro budget, low budget sort of things, there's going to be a lot of stuff in there that's kind of like, not very good, might be kind of painful to sit through. But at no point am I certainly going to sit there and be like, that was a crap film and stuff like that. This is just kind of like, again, a celebration. So if you are a filmmaker out there, please send us your stuff, because you don't need to worry about us getting on there and crapping all over your
Yeah.
film. We'll try to find the good parts and the good things that we liked about it, and sort of Mrs. Shepis's performances and things of that nature. Anything else you want to add to sort of that? Anything else you think the show is not?
No, I mean, I think that makes all the sense in the world to me. Like, you know what you're in for when you go to the. But a lot of these ones are nostalgic to me because this was still the era where I was going to the video store and getting a DVD off the shelf and taking it
Yeah.
home because it had Tiffany Shepis' name or whatever on it. When you go to the movie, the video store, and you're picking up a movie, sort of what you're in for. And I'm not here to be like, Abominable is a 1-star movie or something like that. That's not what I'm doing here.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, real quick shout out. I do want to thank our friend DJ for lending us the intro theme music, and I do want to give a huge shout out to our friend Heather, who did the graphic
Hmm.
design
Super
for
cool.
GoreFest and Tiffany's. And Jeff, you came up with the name GoreFest at Tiffany's. Any thoughts on why you came up with that name? Was that the first thing that came to mind?
It just kind of popped in my head, right? Like you gotta go with your gut, and that's because you're trying to come up with something a little bit clever, and that's where I went.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, good, good. We like it. So, how the show came to be, talked a little bit about this. I encourage everyone, if you're interested in the Forgotten Horror series here on Outpost Unknown, it's where I just sort of deep dive a bunch of different films that I feel are like underseen or underappreciated, just kind of spotlighting a bunch of stuff. Right now on the channel, you can check out Rolf Konevsky's The Hazing. It's a film I really, really liked, that actually stars Tiffany Shepis. And when I was putting that together, that's kind of where this idea came from, because I rewatched it and I was like, oh man, I haven't seen a Tiffany Shepis movie in a long time. Like, as you get older, we have both sort of drifted away from the horror
Yep.
genre just in general in terms of watching. We used to watch these every single film all the time. Like, all right, kind of drifted away. And I was like, man, she's so good in this. And I'd be curious about what else she has done. And then I looked at her IMDb. I'm like, I don't think I've really seen a lot of these films,
Hmm.
even in her heyday,
Yeah.
because, you're putting out so many of them, and it's so difficult. We lived in, Nebraska, and some of the video stores we had here didn't really have access to a lot of these things. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. So that's just kind of how it came to be. So be sure to go check out the Hazing Forgotten Horrors episode right now on Outpost Unknown. And what's cool about that is the director Rolf Konevsky, I was able to sort of interview him, and he gave a lot of really cool information about the making of that film. So if you like that movie, definitely check that out, because it's got a lot of cool stuff for you. So why Tiffany Shepis? So Jeff, I'll throw this to you. Why her rather than someone like Danielle Harris, who we also love?
Yeah, I definitely love Danielle Harris. Side note, she's in my favorite movie of all time, so you guys can noodle out what that one is. But Tiffany Shepis, there's just something, I don't know what it is. Like, I have a male equivalent of this too. Is like there's for whatever reason, I love Christopher Lambert. I watch all his movies.
Oh,
I just love him, and for whatever reason, similarly. I latched on. It began with The Hazing. Now I had Tromeo and Juliet for sure. I had that on like official VHS and watched that all the time, but I didn't necessarily latch onto her quite yet. But it was definitely with The Hazing, where I just kind of like, okay, yeah, who's this? And then when I started seeing her in subsequent things, I don't know, just she has something that is je ne sais quoi, or whatever it is, where you enjoy hanging out with that person, and so you're interested in seeing what they've got going on next. Can't quite put my finger on it, and that's maybe something that'll come through as we work through this or something. Maybe it'll take shape and become more formed, something that I can get a hold
yeah,
of. But yeah, it just seems like a cool person, and I want to hang out with her.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking on this as well as we're sort of preparing for the show. Is like, what was the first thing that I saw Tiffany Shepis in? Because I guess I always assumed it was Troma, and I guess technically yes, I saw Tromeo and Juliet, in the '90s, just like you. But I don't think we were aware that Tiffany Shepis
Mm,
was in that. And
no.
she doesn't. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but she doesn't play a role that's really up front and center.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it had to have been something like Bloody Murder 2, possibly The Hazing. I'm pretty sure it was probably Bloody Murder 2 is probably the first time I saw her. But I guess what made me gravitate towards her is sort of what I said earlier. She just seemed awesome. Like she's got that charm and charisma that comes across the screen. Sort of a male equivalent that I can think of when I was much younger. I was like Bruce Campbell,
Yeah.
right? Bruce Campbell wasn't the greatest actor in the world or anything like that, but he just had that sort of charisma and that cool factor.
Hmm.
You're like, man, I just want to hang out. I want to be friends with this
Yeah.
guy. I just want to hang out and be friends. And you find these individuals and you just want to support them, right? Like I want them to get bigger because it's a sense of satisfaction. It was
Mm.
similar to, I come from a director background. It's like Sam Raimi. It's like I love Sam Raimi as a kid. I loved his movies, and then when he gets big and he's making the Spider-Man movie, and you're like, oh, it's so
Yeah.
cool. These people, like, you don't know them,
You kind of feel
and we
like
should,
you're on their team, right? So when they do well, you kind
yeah,
of feel it's like rooting for a sports team almost. Like you kind of feel like
yeah.
some vicarious thrill when you see them doing well.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we should, for full disclosure, neither one of us have met Tiffany
No.
Shepis. I've been to a lot of horror conventions. You've been to a lot of horror conventions. I don't think she's ever been at one that I've actually attended.
Oh, she definitely
Um,
was at one we were at because
really?
I thought I should go get an autograph or something, but I didn't. Yeah.
Okay, you have to let me know which one that
Yeah.
was because I was like, "What? I don't remember."
Mm.
But yeah, so we haven't actually met her or anything like that. I have been communicating with her. She's trying to help us find some of these films. There's one with Billy Drago I'm very interested in. It's some short film on IMDb. It's got two separate entries at different years, like a decade apart. But it's her and Billy Drago are the only people in the thing. And I'm like, what? Help us, people! Help us find some of
What a good
these
sport.
movies.
What a good sport.
I know, I know. So thank you, Mrs. Shepis, and I hope that you enjoy the show. But with that, let's go ahead and get into the meat of what we're doing here. Episode 1, the Troma years. Of course, Troma Studios, oldest independent film studio around, right? I think they're up to, like, I don't know, almost 50 years at
Hmm.
this point in time. We're going to talk a little bit about Troma and sort of how we came to Troma. I would say is an acquired taste.
Hmm.
I mean, I think Troma in the 90s and probably even the 80s was a lot different culturally than what Troma is now. Personally, I remember every new Troma film that they would do, not something that they would just pick up for distribution, but the ones that Lloyd Kaufman would direct. It was like an event,
Oh yeah.
right? You're like, oh my gosh, a new Troma movie's coming out. We cannot wait to see it. Get the VHS, get the DVD, whatever it would be. And I feel like maybe that's kind of gone now. And I don't know if it's because just the internet has exploded and people aren't as, this doesn't seem as shocking to them, some of the Troma, aesthetic and things that they're doing now. But how did you initially get into Troma? Do you remember how that all came
I
about?
don't know where I first got a hold of it, but definitely whatever the local video store had available, Toxic Avenger, Class of Nukem High, that stuff. I was getting a hold of all of that, everything that was available because they had that brand, so that when you saw it on one tape and you saw it on the other, you're like, okay, well, I want to check this out now too. So it was
Yep.
like that connectivity there. But yeah, I don't know. And then when I was old enough to buy my own, I had money of my own to go down to the Suncoast Video at the mall or something and pick up a tape or two. I was doing that stuff because the brand meant something to me just from getting a hold of Toxic Avenger maybe first and the other few. And then I followed. I was a kind of a big Troma fan all the way up through. I don't know, the post Terror Firm or post Toxie 4, like
Poultrygeist and stuff.
Poultrygeist is the last
Yep.
thing, and then I completely lost track. Now, in doing show prep for this show, I subscribed to their online streaming service called Troma Now. So I've been picking through things that I've missed. But I was really into Troma in those 80s into the late 90s, right past 2000, and then I have no idea what they've been up to the last 20 years, frankly.
Yeah, yeah, sort of the same way. And I don't know if it was just our taste sort of changed. We
Yeah.
got it because Troma and I think we'll talk about a little bit. I think most of these films, initially when I first watched them, like, God, do these even hold up anymore? Like, do they hold up? But I think the more I think about it, I think most of these Troma films do hold up. And maybe that's a conversation we can have
Yeah, we'll
here as
get
we
into
go.
that because I was
Um,
surprised.
yeah, but I remember Troma being like, okay, these are because I had Lloyd Kaufman's book, Make Your Own Damn Movie and stuff, because I wanted to be a film director. And I really attached myself to Lloyd Kaufman as a character
Mhm.
and just as a person because he seemed to really, I'm sure he really believes the things that he professes, but he does it in that kind of like that grandpa sort of way or a crazy uncle who's
Yeah.
just kind of like, fuck all of this. You know, we're going to do what we want. You can do what you want. And that punk rock aesthetic and that ethos, and everybody at Troma seemed to be friends with each other. Maybe not so much if you watch the documentaries of these movies, because Lloyd Kaufman seems like a tyrant on set. But to, you know, my 15-year-old eyeballs, I'm like, wow, I would love to be in a community like this. I'm
Mhm.
stuck in the middle of Nebraska. I don't have anything like this. These guys are having so much fun up in New York, just blowing people's heads apart and crashing cars and all of the stuff. And it was so immature.
Uh-huh.
It felt like, man, my mom would not want me watching this. Not because she thinks that the movie is just bad, but like, what are you corrupting your mind with, some of this stuff? But that's kind of how I got into it, just sort of loving that kind of ethos
Mhm.
to Troma. And I don't remember what the very first Troma movie I watched. It was probably Toxic Avenger. I probably saw it on the VHS cover,
Yeah.
and picked it up. But so yeah, we're Troma fans. I think we can say that we're Troma fans. I do really recommend, if you are someone who's kind of fallen off the Troma train, feel free to check out Troma now. They give you a free 30-day trial, which
Yeah.
is pretty crazy, and you can dive in and catch up on a lot of stuff from your past, nostalgia reasons, or just a lot of the new stuff that they've done lately. I still need to see Shakespeare Shitstorm. I guess that's their big one that came out recently, but it's
Okay,
not
yeah.
available anywhere that I can really
Uh,
find yet. So I'm hoping I can see that at some point. But so let's move into Tiffany Shepis and her Troma years. So just a little bit about Tiffany Shepis, how she got into Troma, and I'll throw in a few clips here. I did watch a lot of interviews that she's done on YouTube with various podcasters and things of that nature to try to get some background here. From what I can gather, she was at a school, kind of like a private school. In one interview, she actually says she was kind of there because she was a troublemaker a little bit. She was sort of there, but the school was filled with like actor type people. It was more for like a creative outlet sort of thing. And Backpage, which I think it's a website now, but it used to be a paper sort of, kind of like newspaper sort of thing, where it would list all of the auditions coming around. She's in the New York area, and of course, she saw um, uh, Tromeo and Juliet audition. Like, come on down to Troma Studios, audition for Tromeo and Juliet.
So I saw an ad in Backstage, which is an actor's newspaper, and it was for Tromeo and Juliet, and they were casting for it. So I went down, and unfortunately, all of the parts were taken, all of the leads. And Lloyd called me in about 20 times. So I went down there on the 20th time, and I said, Lloyd, look, I'm not coming down here again. You owe me about $100 now in cab money. So are you going to give me a part?
So she decides at 15 years old, she's going to go down and audition for Tromeo and Juliet. So she gets down there, meets James Gunn and Lloyd Kaufman, and I think she lied to them. I think she said that she knew Taekwondo or jujitsu or something of that nature. So they basically said, okay, well, they brought in some poor Troma unpaid intern to be like, all right, do something on this guy. She got to like beat the shit out of this guy a little bit. And so they're like, congratulations, you got the job. So her character in Romeo and Juliet is Peter, the bodyguard of the Capulets.
He said, well, listen, we have a part of Peter that it used to be a guy's part. And it's a small part, but it's a very prominent part, and I think people really remember it.
Now, when she got back, in one of the interviews I saw, when she got back to New York to her home, she started panicking because she's like, she told them, they asked, hey, how old are you? And she's like, I'm 19. She's like, I'm 19. So they're like, okay, cool. Because they wanted to make sure of, you know, they
right.
have to get a parent's waiver and stuff like that. So she gets back and she's like, gets super panicked. Like, oh my God, they're going to fire me. I'm never going to be able to be an actress ever again if this gets out. So she calls either James Gunn or Lloyd Kaufman up or something. And she's like, actually, I'm 17. And they're like, oh, okay, fine. And they never checked. But she was actually 15 years old when she filmed this movie, which is just wild when you think about
Yeah.
it, right? It's absolutely wild. Because they actually shot this in 1995, and I believe she was born in 1979. And they then premiered it at the Cannes Film Festival, I believe, in 1996, March or April of 1996. So that's kind of the story of how she got into Troma. But let's talk about Romeo and Juliet itself. Now, this is, again, released in 1996, directed by Lloyd Kaufman, written by James Gunn. I read that he got $150 for the script. It was an original. Somebody had originally written a script for it a few years earlier. It was trash. So James Gunn came on and did a whole like rewrite of it for $150, and boom, we got Tromeo and Juliet. So let's talk about Tiffany Shepis in this. What do you remember about her character of Peter?
Well, what stands out obviously is that it's this girl named Peter, right? And so that makes it a little memorable. It's a little thing that sticks in your mind. But other than that, I mean, frankly, she's not in the film that much. It has a couple things that she does, but she's really not in it all that much.
Yeah, you're gonna see this as, which I was kind of shocked by, but as we go through her filmography from the Troma years, she's barely in anything at all. Troma, barely in anything at all. Now, Tromeo and Juliet, as opposed to some of the stuff we're going to talk about a little bit later, she does have speaking lines.
Now you fucks have gone too far. Goddamn heads bouncing off the cars while Long Island families are singing "Found a Peanut." Well, they found a peanut, all right, honey. They found a peanut of death. Now tell me who did this. Tell me now, or God help me, I'll bite your fucking nose off.
Tromeo, how cute did it?
Tromeo.
In here, so she actually delivers a few lines. The opening sequence of like the very first shot, because I'm like trying to prep for this, right? I'm going to find that first frame of this movie that Tiffany Shepis is in, right? And I'll post the clip here now. But she actually punches Sean Gunn in the face early on. He's says something derogatory about her body.
Peter, your breasts are more pear-shaped than my sister's.
And then she punches him in the face. If you look real close, she doesn't even come close to hitting him.
But they'll do.
Asshole.
She stops like 6 inches away, but Lloyd Kaufman, for whatever reason, didn't decide to shoot it at an angle, so it looked like she hit him, but straight on, so it's clear. It's like she doesn't even come close. But see, again, that's part of the Troma charm. That's the kind of stuff that's like, it's so goofy and ridiculous, and it's clearly an error and mistake, but you can tell the passion that all these people are putting into it, and I can overlook that kind of stuff. It's funny and humorous to me. There is a scene later on where they're like in a tattoo parlor, and one of the Montagues or it's Romeo's buddy gets killed, right? And she's in there when they're all sort of fighting, but they go outside, and Romeo gets or Tromeo, I should say, not Romeo. Tromeo runs out and starts fighting, and she actually kicks a guy in the face. Now, the story behind this, from what I've heard online, is that the person who was, I guess, preparing for this kick to the face had her test it, right? You go through rehearsals, right? So it wouldn't actually come close to the guy's face, much like Sean Gunn, this far away, right? But the guy who was telling her where she needed to stand and kick didn't have her do it with her heels on. So when she actually kicks the dude apparently, and basically sent him to the hospital, cut him up and everything because of that. High kick, wham.
There's a big fight scene, and Tromeo and Juliet in the middle is between the Capulets and the Montagues, and I'm walking down the street, and I'm wearing my big 7-inch spiked stilettos, and I'm supposed to, kick him in the face. So I did, and the stupid stunt coordinator forgot to tell me to practice with heels on. What happens? Steve Blackheart got kicked in the mouth. But that was not my fault. It was an accident. They all blamed it on me.
So that's kind of a funny story from here. And then she has a couple lines when she's in the police station, and they take the chair and they slam her down. They're like, "Who is this?" But they're basically trying to get information out of her. And then later on, she's actually captured. There's like a hallway kind of fight scene, and then she's later captured by Tromaville's corrupt cops.
Lunch.
But it's not my fault. My father's an alcoholic. And I'm a victim too.
Anyway.
Eating donuts. And that's pretty much it. I would say maybe 2-3 minutes of screen time total, if you don't count just sort of hanging out in the background and things of that nature. So yeah, I don't remember her from this, honestly, but I know I saw Tromeo and Juliet. But just sort of quickly, your thoughts on Tromeo and Juliet, because you mentioned that you were kind of like surprised maybe of how well this kind of held up.
Yeah, back in the day, I had this on VHS, and even to this day, my wife and I will still quote, the guy talking about raisin loaf and all kinds of stuff. We'll still quote this movie as little in-jokes to each other. But frankly, when we started this, and I was like, okay, I got to go watch Tromeo and Juliet, Terror Firmer, etc., I was really worried, if worried's the word, about whether I was just going to be cringing the whole time or embarrassed watching them. Like, could this possibly hold up? Because like I said, I hadn't like checked in with Troma in 20 years probably. I remembered loving these things, but I'm an adult now in a way that that I wasn't back then. So I put it on. I think I got the Troma now, but I think this was also available on Amazon Prime, and I think I watched it that way. And the transfer looked great, and frankly, I was shocked that this was better than I remembered it. And you might disagree with me about how good or bad these movies are. I thought this was awesome. I thought it looked great. It's shot on nowadays. If you go and watch a movie made in the last 10 years that's micro budget, it's made in this. It's shot on digital, and it just looks way different. These movies look great comparatively, and I thought
Shot on 35
yeah, I
millimeter.
mean everything looked amazing, and I thought it was super funny. I thought it held up really well, and I probably even being older now just appreciate different parts of it and get different satisfaction out of different things that happened that I didn't back then when I watched it. So I was shocked, frankly, at how much I liked watching Romeo and Juliet in 2023.
Yeah. When I first watched it, be completely honest, I was kind of like, oh, it's weird because Troma then. I don't think Troma could just release these movies today and necessarily get the same reaction
No,
culturally.
no.
They're very politically incorrect. They do a lot of stuff, but the thing about it is, like, it's like Lloyd Kaufman has a message here. It's sort of couched in fart jokes and penises and weird crazy sex, penis monsters and things like that, but he's got a lot of things to say in these
Hmm.
movies, and I think that comes through.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that they're so over the top and ridiculous actually helps the films, because it's very clear that Lloyd Kaufman is delivering his message on whatever it may be. They're sprinkled stuff about the environment and things about big government and all of that stuff. It's all sprinkled throughout all of these Troma movies, but in such an absurdist manner that no one could watch like the opening of Terror Firmer, for example, and then be like, we're going to cancel Lloyd Kaufman, or we're going to cancel everybody a part of these
I
projects.
don't know how to explain it exactly, but they never, as far as these things go and as provocative as they are, they never feel mean or hateful to me.
Right.
That never comes through, and it seems clear to me that that's not what they're about. So even if they're offending you, they're not. And I'm not, you can give them a pass or not for that, but they don't feel mean or hateful to me at all.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there are films out there that do feel kind of very mean
Hmm.
spirited towards individuals. But yeah, I mean, I generally speaking, I don't know if I love these Troma movies as much as I did when I was 15, 16 years old. But I definitely appreciate sort of what Lloyd Kaufman and everybody at Troma was kind of doing at that point in time. I came to a greater appreciation of Troma throughout this first episode than I did before. So yeah, Tromeo and Juliet. I think we would both say, yeah, go watch it. It's easily
I think it's
available. You
good.
can find it.
It's
You can
probably the
find it pretty
best
much.
of these too.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably. I'd probably
No.
agree with that for sure. But we can definitely cross Tromeo and Juliet off our checklist because this is easily found. So the next film we're getting into, or film-ish thing, is a little thing called Tromaville Cafe from 1997. Now, I had actually never heard of this. I didn't really know what I was looking for. But these were apparently short skits made by the Troma team to sort of introduce their films on British television. I guess the BBC was big into Troma in the 90s and allowed Troma to do all kinds of wild stuff over there. I didn't see any of
No.
that. We had no access to that kind of stuff over here. These were very, very difficult to find, and I've only found a handful. There's a few of them on YouTube. Two of them don't have Tiffany Shepis in them at all. But IMDb said she played a character called Dementia.
Dementia here, one of Troma's waitress come action news reporters serving you up another slam-bang episode of Tromaville Cafe. Today we bring you Class of Nukem High, the classic tale of the 3 R's, reading, writing, and radiation.
And there happens to be one episode on YouTube of her playing this character, sort of like this over-the-top, goofy, I mean, how would you describe this character of Dementia? It's just kind of like...
just joking around, being wild.
Over the top,
Yeah.
sort of like, wild sort of thing.
Well, next we have Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD.
Truthfully, Dementia, I really don't remember high school that much. I was drunk most of the time.
But there's IMDb confusion. I have a bunch of notes here,
Yeah.
so forgive me here. The Tromaville Cafe videos say Edge TV in the lower right-hand corner. That's what was confusing us. But they're clearly very different things, because Edge TV is something completely different than Tromaville Cafe. And we need a Troma historian, a Troma historian to jump on here or email us at outpostunknown@gmail.com. Exactly how many of these Tromaville Cafe things was Tiffany Shepis in? There is one Tromaville Cafe thing on Troma now.
Yeah, but it's like the only thing that comes up if you look for it on their streaming service. Yeah.
Yeah, and clearly the stuff that people have put on YouTube is not on Troma now. So I honestly don't know how many of these things she was actually in. But the one, I'll link it in the description below. You can actually go watch her. It's, I don't know, 5 minutes long, and she's just kind of like introducing and, stuff about Class of Nukem High before they go to the movie. So it's, like any of these sort of monster host sort of things, introducing various horror films. I like this thing. I thought it was just kind of charming and funny. I thought she was pretty good in it. It was just one of those things. This early sort of Troma stuff, she doesn't have a lot of roles, right? So you just kind of have to look at the few things that she has done and be like, all right, but I liked it. I thought it was fun. I would have, if this had been available in America, I would have watched it. So, anything else about Tromaville Cafe? I mean,
other than, what's funny is like, I'm insufferable because I can't just talk about something. I have to talk about what it means. And I find it fascinating that these artifacts like Tromaville Cafe, it's something that exists. Obviously somebody wrote it down and we've seen evidence that it exists, but it's hard to get a hold of. And I find that fascinating, the idea of this lost media, and is this on a VHS tape in Troma's basement somewhere in New York, and that's the main place that it exists, or until someone gets a hold of it. I don't know. I that stuff I find interesting.
So we watched one episode of Tromaville Cafe with her, but we actually don't know if there's additional.
No.
I have no idea. So I'm not actually going to cross this off the list just yet. Yeah. So I'm going to say this is a blank spot in the filmography, the Troma years of Tiffany Shepis. So if anybody out there has access to the non-Class of Nukem High Tromaville Cafe episodes with her in it, please send them our way so that we can complete the viewing or show us evidence that there are no others and that we have actually seen it. Because we've seen one and it was cool and charming. Go check that out. So now we get into, and again, someone should update this IMDb because we're going to get into the IMDb that says Sergeant Kabuki Man public service announcement from 1997. So this is a short film directed by James Gunn starring Sergeant Kabuki Man, which is a public service announcement about the dangers of masturbation. In the typical Troma style, you'll get hairy palms, and they show a character with huge hairy palms, and things of that nature. Said Tiffany Shepis was in this. I was trying to find this. I'm like, where? If this is one of James Gunn's first directorial things, where is it? Where can I find this? I actually went to a Troma Facebook group, and I was throwing stuff out there. I had a couple Troma people like, oh, we have this. It's only like a couple minutes long. I'll get it to you. They never got it to me. So I'm struggling. We're putting in work here, people. We're trying to find the stuff. And then I start watching Edge TV. And episode 2 of Edge TV has a Sergeant Kabuki Man masturbation public service announcement in it. And it does not have Tiffany Shepis in it. So at that point, I'm kind of like, well, were there multiple of these? Because Troma, they could have filmed all kinds of... that's all they do is, dick and fart jokes and stuff like that.
And they'll cobble together things from stuff they have and put it out. And,
Yeah. So, I reached out to Mrs. Shepis and asked her. I was like, "Do you have any recollection of this?" Supposedly playing a character called Daddy's Little Girl in this, and I'm just kind of like, "Oh, this is a little uncomfortable," But I'm like, I have to ask her. I must ask her. Do you have any recollection of what this was? So she said that's not her.
Okay.
And rewatching this public service announcement, it is 100% not her. I'll show a clip of it right here. This is not her at all. We're going to cross off Sergeant Kabuki Man public service announcement 1997. This doesn't exist. If there is a Troma historian out there who's like, actually, it does exist, please give it to us. Otherwise, we're going to assume it's an error on IMDb, and it should not be there. So now we're going to get into a couple other weird things here. Let's get into 3 films in which she maybe has 15 seconds of screen time total. So IMDb lists Terror Firmer from 1999, Citizen Toxie, The Toxic Avenger 4 from 2000, and Parts of the Family 2003. We're going to touch base on that one a little because there might be something to talk about with that film itself. Terror Firmer. Let's see, what is she? She is listed as the beautiful head-crushing witness in Terror Firmer. And I'm not going to lie, I had to go through Terror Firmer a few different times. Like, where is she? Like, where is she in this stupid movie? And I'm just, you didn't find Well, I'm going to show it right now. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the extent of Tiffany Shepis' IMDb credit. She literally shows up to scream for like 2 seconds, and boom, that's it. And it's when the big naked guy, I think the car crushes his head or whatever, and that's where the cameo pops in. Okay. So that's it. Not a whole lot to say about that. I mean, she looks great. She screams great. I mean, that's all we can really say there. Then Citizen Toxie, Toxic Avenger 4. And again, people, we've watched all of these movies. Like, where is she? I couldn't find her in this either. I
did see her in this.
Okay, I see. Then we got ours reversed. I couldn't find it. I went to the Facebook group, and I think she was the actual one that responded to me because I posted a general message. And I was like, can anybody help me? Where is she? Has anybody got a timestamp? And I think she said, oh, yeah, I'm the one at the Playboy Mansion. And she's listed as beautiful interpretive dancer in Toxie 4, which I'll show right now.
Who can forget the interpretive dancers?
And that's it. That's all she's in. Not a whole lot to say about that. And then let's get into the funny story about Parts of the Family, in which she is credited as BDSM freak in bed. So I'm like, I've never seen Parts of the Family, right? So I get a trial subscription to Troma now.
Yeah, but that's not enough. But that's not enough, right?
Yes, it's not going to be enough, and we're going to explain that to the people out there. So I get on there, and I'm like, okay, I feel a little ooky. I'm trying to find this footage of Tiffany Shepis as a BDSM bed freak. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be tough to talk about on the show. I'm watching Parts of the Family on Troma now. I don't even know how to describe what this movie is. I mean, we're not going to talk plot by plot. Like, that's not what the show is about. But Jeff, this deserves some sort of special mention, does it not?
Oh, this is incredible. So there's two versions of this same movie, right? It's called Parts of the Family. Now, if you're on Troma now, like I said, I think it's a worthwhile, especially for the free trial subscription, but it's $5 a month after that. Yeah, I'm on Troma now right now, and you can dial up Parts of the Family, and the version that's on there is the non-traumatized version, strangely enough.
Yes, yeah. So they had the director made that for Troma. I guess Lloyd Kaufman thought it was complete.
So this guy, you were because you actually went, you went that extra mile and bought the DVD so that you could get.
I did.
I mean,
you have it.
Yeah, it's sitting behind me. So some guy, and I don't recall the gentleman's name, but he had an idea for a film, and he came to Lloyd Kaufman, and Lloyd Kaufman apparently agreed to produce the film with him, and gave the guy the resources that he needed. And the guy, Lloyd Kaufman, appears in the film for that matter. The guy makes the movie, and it's called Parts of the Family. And it's
Leon Paul de Bruin. He's the guy that did Maniac Nurses Find Ecstasy.
It's utterly insane. Like it's among the strangest things you'll ever see. And if you're interested in watching just a weird movie, then I cannot recommend this highly enough. It's just so weird and strange, and it's obviously very low rent, but yet at the same time, it looks pretty legit as far as, I think he shot it on the film and he has the lighting generally correct and whatnot. But what's going on?
When I watched this, I thought of you. I'm like, Jeff is going to love this movie.
Yeah,
I'm like, because you like weird, bizarre stuff. I'm like, this is a Jeff movie, totally.
So it's utterly bananas. So I recommend it if you're a fan of watching something that's just strange. But then apparently Lloyd Kaufman was like, what am I going to do with this? It's so, even by Troma standards, it's so incomprehensible that you can't really sell it as a piece of entertainment. So they gave it like a mystery science theater kind of treatment. They cut in other people speaking and other scenes of other characters jumping in and saying wacky things and turned it into a comedic thing. So there's two versions. There's the version the actual guy made of his movie, and then there's the traumatized version where Lloyd Kaufman is adding in all kinds of jokes and stuff.
Now seriously, Gudis, can you step closer to the window so we can get a better shot? I mean, so we can hear you better.
And they're both pretty funny. Although I will say the traumatized version, which is the version in which Miss Shepis appears, it maybe goes on a little too long. Like you didn't need to do a feature length version of that joke. The joke is pretty funny. I agree. And it's worth making, but maybe you could have cut it down a little bit shorter. But yeah,
for sure. And I was confused because I watched Parts of the Family. I'm like, where is Tiffany Shepis in this? Like, what? And then I did some research and found, like, I was like looking at the DVD, and it's like, oh, there's two versions of it. So Tiffany Shepis does show up in this for. I guess she's a BDSM.
She's just sitting in a hotel bed, says a couple lines. Frankly, this is a gap in the Troma Now service. I don't understand why this couldn't be on. If the original version can be on Troma Now, I don't understand why the alternate version isn't.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's nothing. It's all kinds of different Troma alums that they throw in. I think Debbie Rochon plays a news
Michael
reporter.
Hers is in there farting around.
Yeah, Joe Flyshaker I think pops in, and all of these things. I mean, again, 15 seconds. I'll show you all the clips that Miss Shepis is in from Parts of the Family Traumatized right now.
Yeah.
Apartment here in Little Belgium. Now we don't want any more violence. You can trust me when I say there are no snipers to go with nothing on her.
Oh my God, look at that guy.
There you go. That's it. There's not a whole lot more to talk about with those movies. And you look at it, there's like, oh, big movies, Terror Firmer, Citizen Toxie.
I will just briefly comment that in the same way that I thought Tromeo and Juliet held up, I thought Terror Firmer and Citizen Toxie held up very well. I thought they were super fun to go back and revisit.
These movies are good movies. I mean, just generally good movies. They have interesting things to say. If you're very touchy about political stuff and certain things that happen in our society, and you don't like people making fun of that, might not be for you. But Troma, again, is not for everybody. But I do agree with you. I think these movies, I questioned it at first, but the more I think about it, I'm like, I actually think they hold up pretty well. So we got two more things. Let's talk about Edge TV 2000-2001.
Troma's TV is what I like to see when I turn on the TV. It makes me so happy. I watch Troma's TV. This is Troma's TV. Troma's TV is what I like to see when I turn on the TV. It makes me so happy. This is Troma's TV.
Now this is, I guess, the majority of Tiffany Shepis with Troma, and we'll talk about that. She's in a lot of this stuff. So just a backstory here. IMDb claims she was in 6 episodes. Troma Now has, I think, 16 total episodes up there. I watched them all. Tiffany Shepis is only in the first 12, and then Debbie Rochon takes over for like the last 4, even though they leave Tiffany Shepis in the opening credits, like hey, it's starring Bulimia or whatever, and the final 4, it's Debbie Rochon sort of takes over her slot. So she plays Bulimia, Tromette Bulimia.
Hey, I'm Bulimia, welcoming you to Troma West here in gorgeous California. Hey, I'm Bulimia. Welcome to the sand and shit-covered beaches of Los Angeles, California. Good evening and welcome to Troma's Edge TV. I'm Super Troma Bulimia, reporting to you live from Troma West in sunny Los Angeles, California. Greetings from Troma West. I'm Super Troma Bulimia, reporting to you live from Los Angeles, California. Greetings from Troma West. I'm Super Troma Bulimia, reporting to you live from Griffith Park in Los Angeles, California. Hi there, and welcome to a very special episode of Troma's Edge TV. I'm Super Troma Bulimia. You know, people ask me questions about my family all the time. You know, drug abuse is a very, very serious issue in this country. Oh, hi there. I'm Super Troma Bulimia, reporting to you live from Hollywood Park Memorial Cemetery, where the elite meet to rest in peace. Hi there, I'm Super Troma Bulimia. You know, before I learned the Troma system, I was just a regular, old, lame Tromed. Hey there, I'm Super Troma Bulimia, here at the closest thing Los Angeles has to a farm. Dude, I'm freezing my fucking tits off. God damn. Oh, hi, I'm Super Troma Bulimia, reporting to you live from Troma Dance.
Throw it to you, Jeff. Your thoughts on Edge TV. First, what is Edge TV kind of about? Like, what are these things?
It's just a goofy comedy show, and I don't know where or when this aired. I mean, it's obviously very, very R-rated at a minimum.
BBC, I believe.
Okay, so
I think
like
it was on the BBC.
I couldn't have pulled this up because I'm thinking back to like the type of TV shows I was watching back then, because it feels very like Gen X. This would be on at 11 p.m. on cable or something, but it's pretty. I mean, the nudity and the everything else, it's pretty far beyond that. So it's not something I would have seen on American TV, but it has that sort of Gen X late night TV vibe. Each show just kind of has a broad topic, and then they make it's Trent Haga in New York and Tiffany Shepis in LA, and they just make some jokes and they play a bunch of clips from Troma videos, Troma movies and stuff. And sometimes they dip into weird other filmic archives that I have no idea what they are and just play something. But it's just kind of a variety show cobbled together from clips with some new footage of Tiffany Shepis and Trent Haga mostly just making jokes. And Lloyd Kaufman is in there a bunch too. So they're just kind of riffing on a topic. And that's about it. But I found it very funny. I found it super entertaining. I can definitely picture myself back in the year 2000 watching this and setting an appointment to watch this because it was on Friday night or whenever it was on. So I think it's super funny. And now Miss Shepis, when she is this exploitational because she's basically in a bikini the whole time, which is I don't know, but
there's some episodes where it's a little like risque, we'll say,
but
fairly risque.
She's super funny, and I don't know how she thinks of this show, like if this is like among the things that she would put at the top of her resume or not, but in my opinion she is hilarious on this show.
We've managed to escape prosecution at the CIA headquarters thanks to me. Hey sexy, thanks again. Call me.
Yeah, I think she's super, super funny. And I put a high premium on people being funny. Like if you're able to pull off comedy, then I think you're able to pull off a lot of other things as well. So her comedic delivery of this stuff in this show is just top notch to me. I found it hilarious.
Yeah, she's great in this. This was kind of like a revelation. I had never heard of Edge
I'd never
TV
seen her
before.
do anything like this also, for that matter. And I'm used to her being in these horror movies and stuff.
Yeah. And this was just kind of like an entire different side that I hadn't seen. I was like, you don't get to see her really do comedy sort of stuff. And she goes all out, for all the different things. It is risque at times. Like I said, there's different topics. I think one of them is about like homelessness. Another one's about
stuff like
sex and all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, she is, you know me, it's hard to get me to laugh. I'm not a big comedy guy. And I think that's part of the reason why Troma, I appreciate Troma, but Troma's never been something that I'm just like, oh my God, I'm a huge Troma fanboy and things of that nature. But this genuinely made me laugh. Sometimes shockingly so. I was like, ooh, sometimes a little uncomfortable to watch at times. They're kind of like, ooh, okay. But yeah, you can find all these on Troma now. And I actually think they're worth watching.
I think that this is the reason to sign up for the free trial of Troma now. And then maybe if you decide that you could probably, frankly, I'm not trying to bag on Troma here, but you could probably in the 30-day free trial, you could probably churn through the Troma Now catalog to your satisfaction and then not renew it. But this would be the reason to sign up. And I have this, I don't know how to articulate this exactly, but I think that this show, and I don't know how this would ever get put in front of a modern day audience because of just of what Troma is and who, how they get their stuff out there. But I think there's a world of people out there in 2023 who have never seen sort of comedy like this. I'm thinking younger people, these millennials that we're always grumbling about. They've never seen something like this, and it might strike them very funny that, some sub segment of them. If I think that Troma's Edge TV would have a real audience available to it right now in contemporary current year, if it could get in front of the eyeballs of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's actually really, really good. Strangely enough, I wouldn't have expected it. And I think I read they put some of these on DVD releases and things that I never saw.
I'd never heard of
this
it.
Stuff on anything. Never heard of it before. And I was a little concerned as we were going through all this Troma stuff. I'm like, are we going to have any? What did she do with Troma?
Yeah.
I know that she was a big person that would go out to Cannes Film Festival and promote.
How do you know what to pack when you're coming to Cannes? Well, let's turn now to our friends, the experts from Troma.
Hey, I'm Tiffany Shepis, and I am here at my place with Sarah and the Troma team getting ready to go to Cannes for the 4th year in a row. Now, everybody knows when you're in Cannes, you have to look super, super sexy. So, we are going to teach Sarah, young Sarah here, how to be Tromatic. There's all types of stuff that you need to bring to Cannes with you. Shiny, for the evening gown type look. You need lots and lots and lots of leather because you need to go with the Meg Ryan and Julia Roberts looks. Very rich and classy, of course. So, what do you think you want to try today? Perfect shoes are a necessity for Cannes. Number one, you're walking all day long. And how do I look? You look so fantastic.
Oh, it feels fantastic to be in Cannes.
Troma was all dressed up and had everywhere to go during their annual parade along the Croisette. The new Tromettes shared their festival experiences with us, all in the name of Troma, of course.
And stuff. And I think I saw an interview with her. Actually, it was on the Coming Distractions disc, which that's a whole story in and of itself. We'll talk about that in a second. Where she basically said she learned a lot of her sort of promotional stuff. And I've seen other interviews where people are like, how are you so good at just promoting and getting out there? And she's like, hey, I learned it all from Troma. I mean, it's all sort of like hustling, right? You got to get out there and, DJ and I do that with our films.
You got some kinship there.
Troma kind of taught me everything that I know. I mean, from, or maybe not the acting standpoint, but definitely as far as the promotion is concerned, distribution. I mean, just from going to Cannes every year for 5 years in a row and at such a young age and being so impressionable and loving everything about it, and listening to the sales guys sell shit and listening to Lloyd pitch stuff. It's that's why I went on to open my own distribution company, which failed fucking miserably. But still, I was able to know the right people to raise the money to do it and actually get movies out there and have movies released and stuff like that and do minor theatrical releases. And if it wasn't for the work that I did for Troma previously, I would have never. I mean, who knows how to do that shit,
You got to kind of hustle and get out there and sort of be extroverted in a way to get people to look at your stuff. So, but yeah, this is super, super good. I'll throw some clips up, highlight Ms. Shepis here. But, we obviously Terror Firmer, Toxie 4, Parts, The Family Traumatized, and Edge TV, we can all cross off the list. Now, let's move into Coming Distractions 2004. So as I'm going through Ms. Shepis' IMDb page, I find, everything Troma. I'm like, was there literally nothing after Parts of the Family? Apparently, she's never been in anything Troma after that. I did see one interview that she said it's basically a time and money thing, right?
Yeah.
She's usually, she's an in-demand actress. She's always working on other stuff, and Troma can't pay anybody anything. So it's, that's the big problem there. But again, everyone, I am trying to do the research here. I'm putting in the work. I'm going through and I'm looking at every release Troma has put out. And I see this DVD called Coming Distractions 2004. This is not on her IMDb page. And I'm looking at like the front of this. And I'll post what it looks like here. I apologize. I mean, it's a little crass, but I'll post what it says here.
Blur some parts. I don't know.
Yeah. I hope YouTube doesn't kill our channel here. But it says a special tribute to Super Tromette Tiffany Shepis. And I'm like, I have to see it. I have to find it. There's no way I can find this. I mean, it's not on YouTube. It's nowhere. I mean, this is just some weird extra on a DVD that Troma released, 20 years ago at this point in time. So what do, people? I buy it. If you don't believe me, let me bring it here.
All right.
Let me hide that. Right there. Coming Distractions. There's Tiffany Shepis right there. And it says, see what's behind 30 years of legendary filmmaking. It includes an uncensored salute to the ultimate Tromette, Tiffany Shepis. So I had to get it. It cost me $15. So I buy it. I buy it 2 weeks ago. It starts in Maryland. It goes to Seattle. It sits in Seattle for days before it goes down to Portland. And meanwhile, I had told Jeff, I'm like, all right, we'll record last Tuesday or whatever. Like, we'll have it all. I want plenty of time so I could edit this whole thing before Halloween. And I have to keep telling Jeff, I mean, it's not coming, man. Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't want to do the show without seeing Coming Distractions. So finally it arrives like today. Today, the day we're on a Saturday, Halloween's on Tuesday. So I finally popped this thing in. I'm like, what is it? Fucking trash. I mean,
it's a clip
trash.
Show, right?
It's basically just a bunch of clips of her from Edge TV and like 2 minutes of an interview that they did with her about something.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to it. I was like, are you serious? But I'm letting everyone know that's the links. That's the links I'm going to try to find everything that she's ever been in. But there were a couple interesting things. I'll post the clips of them here. She does mention that she wasn't enthused with Edge TV filming it because I guess the people who were in LA were not like Troma people or something of that nature. She didn't get the Troma vibe. They didn't understand the Troma vibe.
Good time, but it sucked. It was just long hours and like people kind of not really knowing what they're doing and like changing scripts on you left and right, which sucks for me because, people think that I suck then. It's like, oh, she doesn't know her lines and look the way she's stuttering. It's like, no, they didn't give me this shit till the morning of.
But she wasn't super happy with the Edge TV. And then she had a production company. She mentions that Lloyd Kaufman kind of inspired her to get her own production company. She released some movies. I don't know anything about that production company, so I might have to ask her about that or look into that a little bit more, and we can discuss that on a future episode. But we can cross off Coming Distractions, everyone. You can cross that off the list. I'll put the clips in here of what she said, and that's all you need because there's nothing else to it. $15 and all this time stressing out of whether it would arrive in time, but there you go. So that's it. To our knowledge, that is all of the available Troma content with Tiffany Shepis that we could possibly find. Again, we might have an issue with the Tromaville cafes. We just don't know if there's more of them with her out there. But please let us know. Send us an email, outpostunknown@gmail.com, if you have access to these Tromaville cafe episodes that we're missing, and we want to check them off the list. Because what I suspect is going to happen, Jeff, is we're going to get to a point where like we can't find something, but we got to put out an episode.
Yeah.
So we'll let everyone know, hey, we couldn't find these as we're going through. We'll put out the call. And then we'll do like a catch-up show later on or something like that where we start crossing off the ones that the people have helped us find. So I guess the Troma era in general, Tiffany Shepis Troma era, how would you kind of wrap up after watching all of this content with her? Your thoughts on her time with Troma?
Well, I think, as we said, the Edge TV stuff is really fun and really cool. And it's a side of a Scream Queen that I didn't really know even existed. And so I would encourage people to check out Edge TV. And yeah, I'll go so far as to say, sign up for the free trial of Troma now, watch the Edge TV stuff. And then, so outside of, because she's technically in Romeo and Juliet, Terror Firmer, and Citizen Toxie, but she's functionally not really in them. Other
she has
Romeo, she's
and Juliet.
She's in that.
Yeah,
the other
Romeo
two, she's
Juliet,
like functionally not in. Even so, if you're anything like me and you remember liking those movies, but then you've grown up and become an adult and you don't really have time for for silly Troma stuff anymore. I would say give yourself the permission to go back and check out those old Troma movies that you used to like, and you might still like them. Indeed, you might even like them more. So I think that was what I got out of this Troma stuff. Edge TV is great. She's awesome in that, and those other things that she's even not in so much were interesting to me to revisit for sure. And Parts of the Family, man, I don't know. You got to be a special kind of person, but if you're into weird stuff, look up Parts of the Family because it's bananas.
Yes. So my thoughts on this is, the revelation was Edge TV. I thought Edge TV was really good. Now, would she look, like you mentioned, would she look back fondly on some of the aspects of Edge TV? I don't know, but she is still awesome in that. And every single episode, she's in a different wig, a different outfit, and she's just really, really funny, really funny.
Super
and
funny.
It's one of the things that I was looking forward to most, sort of starting the show and going through, because we only really know her from her horror roles, right? So seeing a lot of this stuff and discovering this stuff that, different sides of her acting ability that we weren't aware of, and how that kind of progresses and changes throughout the years, right? Because this is when she's very young, right? 15 to 20 years old, roughly. And we're going to kind of see the arc of how she gets better and how she learns from different directors and things of that nature. And I'm hopeful that down the line that we'll be able to have a couple of directors join us that have worked with her and talking. I've been talking to a couple that we can sort of like maybe learn a little bit more about that process. So overall, the Troma stuff, it's out there. You can find it. You can also spend $15 for stuff that you probably shouldn't. So definitely check a lot of that stuff out on Troma now. So next episode, everyone, this is going to be kind of fun. I'm actually really excited for this one, more so than I was this very first episode with Troma, because these are her non-horror acting roles at this time. So according to IMDb, she had a number of different stuff while she was sort of in the Troma sphere. Something called Shampoo Horns, Chick Boxin' Underground, Some Fish Can Fly, and Everything for a Reason. And I don't know if these are sort of dramas or maybe there's some comedies in here. I'm not exactly sure. Now, what I am sure of, it's very hard to find these. We've already been struggling trying to find these. I know Shampoo Horns is on YouTube. I was able to find that there. The other ones, we might be getting some access to, but please, if you're listening to this and you have access to Chick Boxin' Underground, Some Fish Can Fly, and Everything for a Reason, please let us know how exactly we can see them. Look, I'm willing to pay for a DVD if there's one out there. So please let me know. And if any of the filmmakers are listening, hey, send them our way. We want to be able to check them out. So hopefully maybe in a month or so, after we've got time to find these and check them out, we will come back with that episode. But that's all I got for now. Jeff, you want to take us out?
Hey, thanks for watching and stay tuned. I really hope we can get a hold of this stuff because I'm more excited now than I was at the outset. I think I started looking at that filmography and I was like, wow, this is too much. But now I feel energized and I feel ready to take it on.
Back on board. And don't forget to check out the Forgotten Horrors episode of The Hazing, where we talk a lot more about Tiffany Shepis and her role. That movie's got Brad Dourif in it. He's awesome in it, and a bunch of other really cool actors. So check that out, and we'll be back next time on GOREFEST at Tiffany.